Okay, you're live.
Oh. Do 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 do. Hello, hello, hello. Hope everybody's having a good day. Friday. Hope everybody is staying safe wherever you are in America or around the world. Um, you know, don't want to get into a battle royale with the uh, the anti-vaxxers and whatnot, but it's very bad news right now in America. COVID is surging. Just yesterday, 187,000 new cases. You have on the 7-day average about 156,000 cases. We're now well north of 1,000 deaths a day. Yesterday was 1,233. So, unfortunately, COVID, it's kind of just become a normalized part of America. So we're forgetting how many people are still dying, how many people are still getting sick. Not to mention, you look at Florida, Louisiana, Texas, Georgia, Arkansas, pediatric hospitals for children are now filling up to the point of, in many cases, not having enough beds. And there are now more reports coming out about, because of hospitals again being overrun, people who need to be immediately seen for a heart issue or cardiac arrest or non-related COVID issues are now not being able to get seen, and in some cases dying. So it's really bad news all around. I think, unfortunately, because America is essentially just become one endless culture war on issues that should not be, on issues that should not be. Democrats say X, Republicans say Y. Life or death, you would think, shouldn't be that way. But as we've seen, when 20 something children got killed in Newtown, Connecticut, mass shooting after mass shooting, life or death doesn't really seem to matter anymore to our politicians. So, the anti-vaxxers and the corona truthers and what have you can continue this perpetual, more people die from car accidents nonsense. By the way, car accidents, not contagious, usually constrained to the drivers, one driver, two drivers, multiple cars involved in a car accident. But it's just sad to see, because honestly, the truth is, it could be any of us. It could be any of us. It could be any of our family. It could be any of our friends. And not to mention, this whole idea of like, oh, well, personal freedom trumps everything else. Well, I would argue to say those folks who feel that way only seem to be focused on their freedom and not other people's freedoms, who are looking at the data, are looking at the science, have been responsible, have gotten vaccinated. Their freedom to live or not get sick again, that doesn't seem to matter to those people. So anyway, I digress. Smash that like button. Friday, end of summer. I'm not expecting a humongous audience, but share this live stream. Smash that like button. We're about to have a guest on because there are ongoing protests for Medicare for all. I also want to talk to this guest about how do we go beyond just boots on the ground, because I actually just wrote a Substack piece about this, that essentially, I don't want to be the white guy telling black people how to lead their movements, telling indigenous people how to lead their movements, undocumented immigrants how to lead their movements. I just cover it. But I have felt for the last several years, as I leave, the protests I've been covering, a certain frustration, not by the organizers or the activists, but just like, all right, we're continually going around and around and around, circling the same blocks, screaming the same chants, which politicians and corporations essentially, not in all cases, will allow you to do. If you get a little too rowdy, they'll have their protective force, i.e. the police, smash your head in. mace you, rubber bullets, the whole nine. But I don't really see anything beyond that. So I'm hoping that continues. And when I say beyond that, I've said it over and over again. We've already seen mass mobilization could happen in America. We saw it last year with the George Floyd protests. Imagine if we could get 1/10 of those millions of people who protested to start doing some economic protests. So that's what I want to talk about. So we're going to talk to Sharif in just a minute. There is a Medicare for All protest actually happening outside a congressperson, a corrupt corporate Democrat's house tomorrow in Massachusetts. So we're going to talk about that. I also wanted to do kind of a Friday free for all. I forgot to read your super chats yesterday, so I got a bunch of super chats I still got to read, and I want to give an update on the fundraiser we're doing. If you don't know, on Monday I sent out an email. We kind of try to just keep it real. We don't beg you for money without telling you where the money's going. So on Monday we sent out an email basically saying, hey, we've had quite a few unexpected costs recently. Jen got sick, unfortunately, with a flare up of her long haul COVID. So she had to stay back in Flint for an extra 5 days. That cost us about $800 between the hotels, ordering food because she couldn't get out of bed, medicine she needed. We are hopefully launching our brand new website next week. That costs $5,000. The website looks great, but kind of hurts my soul that it costs that much. But we needed, our website is crap, so we needed a new one. It's a lot more functional too. We also tried with our Flint story to issue a press release, which we've never done. That cost $2,500. Not to mention the most recent reporting trips we've taken in Flint, Cleveland, and Akron. That cost about $4,000 between 3 people. So it's a pandemic. People are struggling. We didn't want to set a crazy goal. So we put out a goal to raise $6,000 this week. Colin, if you could put it up. We have blown past that completely. We're now at, I believe, actually, no, it's more. I think it's about $8,300 we've raised, if you don't mind just tweaking that, Colin. So 6,000 was our goal. We're already at 8,300. I believe in miracles. I think we can get to 9,000 if there is a God. 10,000 today. If we get to that, the sky's the limit, because not only do we need the funds to kind of, at least break even a little bit on all these extra costs we've had, but we have several stories we want to get out there as summer ends to cover. But we could only go as much as you take us. We literally are funded by you. We don't take money for the big banks, the fossil fuckers, big pharma, big real estate, Silicon Valley, military industrial complex, none of them. So if you can, the GoFundMe is alive and well. I'll give shout outs after this guest, but you can contribute through GoFundMe, PayPal, as well as our Cash App. Colin will put the links up on the screen. So without further ado, Sharif Snuggs, you were on, I believe, last week with Jen talking about trying to get some version of healthcare, universal healthcare, through the states. But you may be aware of a protest going on this weekend, which I think is important, because I think a lot of people, only focused on force the vote, and frankly, you're still talking about it 8 months later. I was for it, by the way. Or the Medicare for All march, that to me was a success. 56 cities across the country, without frankly any of the politicians promoting it. But there are smaller scale protests going on as well. So can you tell me who is the politician you guys are protesting this weekend? Why is he specifically such a impediment to getting Medicare for All? And what do people need to know?
Yeah, so Richard Neal, he's head of the Ways and Means Committee rather, for the House of Representatives. And so recently Nancy Pelosi told him, kill the bill, basically. Do not bring a Medicare for All bill to the floor. So the idea is that we sent a letter to his house last week telling him that we will be back if you don't, give into our demands, which is please put up Medicare for All on the floor. And so obviously we didn't hear anything. So I just bought my bus ticket yesterday so I could actually go to the protest as well. To to be outside his doorstep and say, listen, we're serious about this. We want this. We're going to try any and every avenue to bring Medicare for all. So it's not just focusing on, I know a lot of people are very passionate about the force the vote movement. It's over. So we need to think about new strategies, new ways to actually push the conversation for Medicare for all. That's the idea. The idea is to keep moving forward. Anything you can find that makes sense. This makes sense to us because obviously he was asked to not put it on the floor. So we're telling him to reconsider. Please, we're trying to bring a bunch of noise this weekend for that, and hopefully we're going to also protest other members of the Ways and Means committee as well. So he's just one of the piece of the pie, so to speak.
I think it's interesting because a lot of people, like on the top line, look at. I mean, of course, if Biden isn't going to do it, it doesn't matter. Richard Neal, whomever, right. If the president won't sign it, that's right. Unfortunate. I still don't believe if it actually passed, which, obviously is an uphill climb, he would veto it, but that's another story. But right. I think a lot. I think a lot. Too. Yeah, I think a lot of people focus on Biden or Pelosi or the understandable Democratic slime, but they don't realize on the lower level, it's people like Richard Neal, just from the structural congressional point of things, is really the main sources blocking this.
Right. No, absolutely. And we need to pressure everyone who is going to be a contributing factor to get Medicare for all. So I think that people need to, and one of the reasons why we picked Richard Neal, and so it's so easy to say, oh, Pelosi or Biden, there are other pieces to the puzzle. There are other people you can also protest to actually get them to your side and to actually pressure them and let them know, like, listen, we won't vote for you. We won't rally for you if you don't do this. So you need to go to our position. We're asking for Medicare for all. So we need to get you to be on this position. If you're not in this position, then face the consequences of us voting someone else into office.
So I want to ask, and this isn't, meant specifically towards you. This is just something I've seen over and over again. Obviously there's a huge portion of the left. I just wrote a Substack piece about it. They're angry, they're frustrated, they're, hopeless, cynical, want to burn it all down. I get it. I mean, I'm out there, so trust me, I feel the same way. But it's more of the kind of keyboard warrior version. And let's rant. If we rant and rave loud enough, it will create, bring us. It will just rant. We could rant and rave Medicare for all into existence. And again, these people, I keep getting it. Stop punching down. Stop tone policing. Blah 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 blah. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, listen. We all should be big boys and girls. I mean, let's not be snowflakes. If you could call if folks over online could call everybody and their mother a fraud and a sellout, then
right,
maybe it's okay. If your views are challenged ever so slightly, but broader, I feel, and I've been doing this for 6 years, not just Medicare for all. You got Black Lives Matter, Standing Rock, the DACA protests, ICE detention centers. I mean, I've covered it, or my colleagues have covered those protests. I've probably covered alone 30 to 40 Black Lives Matter protests. And I'm not trying to minimize, because showing up is showing up and it gets attention and it drives energy. But I just feel like without a secondary component of it, whether it's, I mean, Colin, if you could show it, whether it's targeting folks like Richard Neal's donors. I'm not talking violently, but I mean, Jesus Christ, this is a murderer's row. I mean, he got Raytheon over his career. Raytheon, $197,000. National Association of Realtors, $144,000. New York Life Insurance, $126,000. Ernst & Young, $113,000. The list goes on, and most of these companies have investments in the for-profit healthcare system. So on one end, there's so much focus on, like, let's protest outside Pelosi's office. Let's protest outside McDonald's office or Neal's office or house, which I think is great.
Right.
But there's not as much organized, and maybe correct me if there is, and I'm just not seeing it. There doesn't seem to be as much organizing on a local level for economic protests, mutual aid, forming primary threats to Democrats. And I'd like to know what you think about that, because I think we could continue marching in circles around the country, but it's kind of just like, it's like if the banks if the fossil fuckers just put into the yearly balance sheet whatever, hundreds of millions of dollars of fines they're going to get for whatever illegal thing they did, then I feel like the politicians and the corporations just kind of put into their calculus, all right, let them protest, whatever. But there's no threat to us just by them protesting.
No, you're exactly right. You're not wrong in that at all. The problem is that we need to get people to first recognize that is a problem. Like if you mention many people about Richard Neal or even Nancy Pelosi or any politician take corporate money, they kind of feel like they're not really like, there in that they're not there at that point yet. We have to get people out in the street first, get them to understand that we do need to pressure these people. And I think we can have a separate conversation about, okay, what's next after that? We have to baby step that. We have to walk that line first. We have to baby step that. So I do agree with you. I think you're already steps ahead of the most American people in a sense that you already understand that we have to go beyond just pressuring politicians. We also have to go to the root of the problem. And they're not even at that point yet. Because you talk to certain people, even in my own community, about that, they're not even there yet. So you're 100% right. We have to get them to that point first. That's my opinion. Yeah.
I also think, to be fair, that's not easy for everybody.
No, it's not. It's not easy at all.
Let's call it what it is. People are working. If before the pandemic they were working 2 jobs, maybe they're working 3. Their hours have been cut. And depending on where you live, your kids haven't completely gone back to school. You're exhausted as it is by the end of the day. So the thought of having to go to your local community meeting about organizing a protest, I totally get it. It is not for everybody, but I do believe movements actually start to have wins by energy.
Yes.
And feeding one person or one group's energy, kind of going like lightning fire to the other. And I just wrote a piece today. It's on our Substack. You could get it for free at statuscoup.substack.com. And I basically said, the headline basically says it all. Basically, as the online left circular firing squad continues, workers are striking and organizing all over America.
Yeah.
Because I've been kind of dumbfounded. And this isn't to like trigger, anybody, because there's a lot of people that get triggered by this. But I've been kind of dumbfounded that the very YouTube hosts, tweeters, whoever that have been rightfully criticizing the squad and others for not fighting and Bernie or whatever, I see very few videos on Amazon's organizing, the coal miner strikes down there in Alabama. Now Nabisco striking all over the country. I just spoke with a Starbucks worker. They're forming or trying to push a union drive in Buffalo. We just had, I didn't even know about it, but I just learned yesterday, window cleaners, which are window cleaners that clean office buildings. They just won a new contract after striking. So there was no actual major strike in America for a decade. Right. There was no union drives for a decade. So when you have these consecutive things going on, they're not as sexy to put in a YouTube headline. They're not as food fighty. But to me, regardless of one's opinion, whether it's all electoral politics or totally not electoral politics, to me, this is the way forward, because this brick by brick by brick actually threatens the donors, threatens the CEOs, and therefore has to force politicians to actually concede things, because, as I've always said, flags behind me, it's not the politicians making the decisions, it's the donors.
Right. You're speaking to the people who are striking. They're at the point of what you just mentioned earlier about attacking the money, attacking the donors, going after them instead of going after the politician. They already got the vision already. They're already there. So the Nabisco workers who are striking, they understand not to go to my politician. I'm just not going to show up to work until you give me what I want. And so they already caught the vision, because most people are at the point, well, I'm just going to reach out to my elected official because I don't like my money that I'm getting at work. I don't like my salary or whatever. I don't like the fact I don't have health care. I said this in other podcasts too. We do need a general strike. I'm not advocating for that now. I know a lot of people said be careful of mentioning that word, general strike, but at some point it is going to happen. The working class is going to get to a point where it is going to be a shutdown. I don't know how big, I don't know how small, but you're going to see that not just for wages, but also for healthcare and for other social safety nets that we're not getting.
Right.
And these strikes that are happening are speaking to that. And it's an unspoken language in a weird way. Like it's almost instinctual. People just get the feeling to like just do it. We're there at that point. We're not speaking to each other. Like people from Nabisco are not talking to people at Starbucks. They're not taking to people at McDonald's. They're not speaking to people at Amazon. But there's a feeling there to just do it because we're all feeling the weight of capitalism. We're all feeling the weight of the fact that we're not getting what we're earned. We earned healthcare. Healthcare is a human right. We should have this. We should have a living wage. We should have all these social safety nets, which we don't have, unfortunately. And so eventually, even the March for Medicare for All, we've actually, behind the closed doors, we actually brought that up. We've actually mentioned the fact that talking to the unions, talking to other workers, I've even talking to Chris Smalls several times about this, about how healthcare is tied to employment. We've mentioned that already because, I'm big on healthcare. He's big on unionizing. And we talked about this, and it's intrinsic. It's so closely together. Like even at my job, the first thing that they offer before you get a raise, how's your healthcare? That's the first thing they kind of throw at you. So it lets you know that they're just using that as a way to not pay you. You wouldn't offer me healthcare at my job if you didn't want to pay me. You know what I mean? So that's the first thing they always offer.
Right. I want to get to the Medicare for All protest more, but I just want to zero in on one more thing.
No, for sure.
Because I think that, and this is, me included, by the way, as a journalist, I think a lot of people in 2016 through 2020 kind of got caught up in this notion of revolution. And I don't want to be the one to tell you like eat your broccoli kind of strategy, but kind of got caught up in this one person, Bernie Sanders, or this one group of politicians, the squad or whomever. They will be how we uncorrupt a government that's been corrupted over 50 years. It's been corrupt since the dawn of time, especially for Black people. But they maybe didn't realize that even if Bernie was president today, aside from an executive order that could be challenged, he can't just ram Medicare for All through. No. If the squad had majorities in Congress, technically it would get us closer to it, but there's a lot of factors. And I think that people just kind of got caught up in, why not? You were at these Bernie rallies. It's like this nostalgic kind of 1960s feel of like times where things were more equal and there was more hope and camaraderie. They maybe didn't realize that FDR came in the 1930s and did all these things. There was activism in the 1920s and early 30s leading up to that and organizing to even push these ideas. And it's not like a bunch of people came together after the stock market crashed and forced FDR to do it. There was a road paved for that. Just like, I don't want to, I'm not Black, but it's not like there wasn't a long activism before Martin Luther King led. Right. So I just feel like people, kind of maybe we're not intentionally, but maybe we're misled that all of this could happen overnight. That's not to say except incrementalism, but it is to say you can't just rant and rave at certain politicians or think that they are the main obstacles to you getting Medicare for all of these things, because it's going to take. I don't agree with just totally eliminating, electoral politics and not focused on that at all. But it's going to take a lot more way outside of relying on these politicians.
No, agreed. I mentioned this in the other podcast. You need street heat. Every social change happened on the street first. Women's suffrage, civil rights movement, gay marriage, you name it. If it didn't happen in the street, it didn't happen electorally. And when people get mad when I say I'm not a big proponent of electoral politics, that's because I know that I'm going to have to push any politician who's in office, no matter if I like them or they agree with my position, is irrelevant. We're going to have to push them out of the way. So what's the difference? So for me, people feel comfortable voting for someone that they feel leans more to their position. You still have to do the same work. You still have to push them. You still have to get out there in the street. You still have to do all the same legwork. So for me, it doesn't really matter who's in office because you still have to do the same job. Sure, you have to work a little harder, but still doesn't work. They're not an ally, in my opinion. So you do need both. You do need the electoral solution, sure. You still need to vote people in, but also too, you also need the numbers. You just can't write to so and so and contact someone's office and say, hey, can you do this? They're not going to do it unless you have like X amount of people outside their doorstep. Then they're gonna listen.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I also think, I mean, I spoke about it at the beginning of this. I mean, just look at what's going on right now. Like 1,200 people died yesterday.
Right.
We just become numb to it. I mean, the media's fixated on the 13 American soldiers that died and the 170 Afghans, and they should be. I mean, it's important, but we've just become numb that like 500 Americans are dying a day. Now it's back up to 1,200. It will continue going up. Hospitals are overrun. Children are filling up beds. And it's not only because we don't have Medicare for all.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to get into a whole, vaccine clusterfuck and bring out the haters, but a lot of the beginnings of this had to do with people not going to the hospital if they felt sick, people not getting tested because they felt it would cost money. And that goes beyond COVID to people not going to see a doctor. I've spoken with plenty of people that have really acute ailments that are bad that they won't go. So I don't think there's any less, there's no lesser moment for something like whether it be forced to vote, which I supported, or other mechanisms to protest for Medicare for all. This isn't going anywhere, unfortunately. So what are your thoughts on, I mean, this is still a major moment to protest for Medicare for all.
No, you're exactly right. Some people are just so rightly so worried about, taking the vaccine. I'm vaccinated, mainly due to the fact that, obviously I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but also too, I work for a living. So, I live in New York. Obviously now that Bill de Blasio made the mandate, so I also have to do it, whether I wanted to or not. Because obviously I want to take care of my kids and go to work for and make a living. But at the end of the day, in regards to, people fear of going to the hospital, that also directly the fact that they just can't afford it. I just think that it comes back to the. I lived in Jackson Heights. I just moved to Astoria, and most of the members of my community, they can't afford to go to the hospital. They don't have money for that, and so, I think that a lot of it has to do with just the fact that they're so used to not going to the hospital, even though the vaccine is free or the COVID test is free. That's just something they're just so worried and so concerned that they'll get stuck with a bill.
Right.
That's what it really comes down to. They don't trust. There's a lot of mistrust in this country. And if we had a system where that wasn't the case, I think that also would have helped drive it down. If you ask a lot of folks, and I'm pretty sure you've probably spoken to people, it's just that there's a lot of mistrust. But not just with the government, but just with the hospital system in general. And people just don't want to go because they're afraid that they may get stuck with a bill. And they don't want to pay for it.
Right.
Yeah.
I also think, I mean, frankly, we're not even talking about this right now. We have no fucking idea what the long-term healthcare needs are going to be for adults. For adults, it's just one person, but obviously, Jen, my partner is struggling mightily with COVID long hauler. Unfortunately, the doctors don't really have the answers yet. Children, who are getting it, there's this kind of, I think, flippant notion as, oh, well, they're not dying in mass. Okay, well, they might not be dying, but their bodies are still forming.
Right. There are other things that are going on. So like the whole thing with like the COVID variant is bothering a lot of people, even myself. Just because people are not dying doesn't mean there's not long-term effects, doesn't mean you can't get sick, doesn't mean you can't be hospitalized. There's so many different things there's so many questions that people have in regards to that we don't have the answers for. And so because you don't have an answer for that doesn't make people comfortable, obviously. And so no one's going to rush to the hospital if you don't have an answer. Like, no one's going to stick something in your arm if you can't answer to the fact that, well, what about this? What about this person being sick? What about this person dying? What about these ailments? There's so many variables. And so that's weird that we're like trust the science, but you don't have a science for that. You don't have a question for that. So why are people going to rush to the hospital? No one's going to do that. And so I totally understand people, not want to do it. But also, too, furthermore, the scariest part is like we don't have an answer for the long-term effects that people may have for like taking this vaccine or just getting the COVID variant in general. Like we just don't have an answer for that. And I don't know. There needs to be a better line of communication in that regard. I just don't. I don't know what this administration is thinking about doing. Why that makes sense to them, but we got to get a better handle on that.
Right. So I also think the bottom line is, Democrats. I know you don't care about electoral politics as much, but Democrats are heading into an abyss. They're going to get crushed in 2022. To me, just the numbers show that.
Yeah, Republicans are going to totally. In my opinion, I think the Democratic Party, people, whether people agree they're the same, whether Republicans or Democrats are the same to you, but kind of a lot of people feel that way, and that's fine. I kind of agree with the same way too, but I don't think that no one's going to vote Democrat again for a very long time. I think Republicans. I think there's going to be a sweep next election round. They're going to be all Republican. Because the simple matter is that the Democratic Party has done such a bad job at lying to the people and failing them and not doing anything. Just giving giant lip service on all fronts. So I can't imagine people saying, I'm going to vote Democrat. If anything, I would say even independent or third party have a better chance at even getting some more votes than the Democratic Party. I'm not saying they're going to win, but I can't imagine anyone voting for a Democrat next election cycle around.
Right. And lastly, I want to ask you specifically. So the protest is tomorrow in Massachusetts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, outside Richard Neal's office. So what are the demands specifically to Richard Neal, who is the chairman of the Oversight Committee, is very close, not Oversight, Ways and Means Committee, that tied at the hip with Speaker Pelosi. What are the specific demands right now for him?
We just want that House bill. We just want the bill on the floor. The HR 1976 bill. We just want that on the floor. We just want a hearing for that. So it's very similar to force the vote, but not quite, in the sense that that bill needs to get passed through the Ways and Means Committee. So we just want that hearing. So we just want to be heard. We want a hearing, and we want Richard Neal and other members of that committee to say whether and why won't they do it if you're not going to do it? Why is it now not the time? Why more people have to die because we have inadequate healthcare in this country. I don't see why there's a justifiable reason. And the fact that Nancy Pelosi went on record by telling him to kill that bill.
Right.
So it's very simple. Our demands or our asks are not like, radical, as some people would say. We just want to be on record that you did that or didn't do it, so that now we know where we are. And I feel that them not discussing the conversation just puts them where we know they are. Not talking about it means you don't want to do it. And if I know a lot of people, and I've spoken to some of my friends about this too, they don't understand that conversation. They feel like by not talking about it, they feel like there's a chance. And I was like, no, that's the opposite. The opposite is that by them not talking about it means they don't want to do it. They're obfuscating the conversation because they want you to not have healthcare. Some people deserve it, and you don't, and that's the bottom line. But we know that. We just want them to go on record because, again, it gets more allies in the movement to keep pushing for healthcare. Because the idea is to grow the movement. This is a tactic. We're letting the cat out of the bag in that sense. We want people to see that they don't want to do it, so that it gives us more people on the street to keep pushing, because it's a push campaign. We know that tomorrow Medicare for All is not going to get passed. We all know that. The idea is that we need to keep growing this movement and try other strategies. Hopefully, one day, sometime soon, that we can protest the donor class. Because we know that donors are the reason why politicians don't listen to our demands. Because they get tons of money from them. So hopefully, that could be next.
Right.
Maybe a general strike.
And lastly, we shouldn't we should point out, last night just so happened to have done it when things are in Afghanistan are going to shit. But last night the Supreme Court ruled, basically blocked the eviction moratorium. So
Yep.
pretty much now, I very likely that landlords who have been itching to kick people to the streets are already doing it. It's probably going to be even worse September 1st, which is coming up. Predictably, people are blaming Cori Bush for this, which just defies logic to me.
It doesn't. I mean, I understand. I understand why people would make that reach, even though it has nothing to do with her. But fact that her and AOC are the face of that stunt, because it was a stunt, it was all theater. So they're gonna take the cover for that. They're gonna take the blame for that, even though it's not them, because they could have solved that issue months ago, easily.
Yeah, I actually disagree with you. I don't think it was a stunt.
Really,
because I think people are wrong. Not because they are uninformed, but they just wrongly assume that if Cori Bush, AOC, and them like organized 3 months earlier, it would have actually whatever the phrase may be, like
no, I agree with that.
Permanently extended it, or like they actually were behind the scenes trying to get it extended. It was Pelosi, because of her large real estate donors, who was blocking it. So to me, it's not even about whether Cori Bush did the right thing or not. It's just this notion, again, that these progressives have all this power to get you Medicare for all right now, or to permanently extend the eviction moratorium. Really, their main power right now, and I know people don't want to hear this, but it's the reality, is to block legislation. I mean, that's really, which they have not been using. I supported forced to vote, but they do not. They on their own, whether they did this 3 or 4 months ago, could not have gotten the eviction moratorium extended if the Supreme Court was going to come in and do this. If they couldn't get Congress to extend it, they could have got Biden and the CDC to extend it, like that just happened. But if they couldn't force Congress to do it, whether it be 3 months ago or 3 weeks ago, the Supreme Court was going to do what they did. I actually think symbolically, they should have done it earlier, 100%, and said, fuck it. If Nancy Pelosi and them aren't listening to us behind the scenes, then we're going to do it now. I think if they would have done it, let's say a month earlier, they could have got even more people out there. I'm just saying, to the actual result, I think you'd have the same result.
No, I agree with you. That's my point, though. That's what I'm saying is a stunt, because I think they're smart enough to realize that they did it 3 months ago, it would still have the same effect. That's why I'm calling it a stunt, because I don't think that them going out there rallying would have made a bunch of a difference, whether they did 3 months or now. That's why I'm calling it a stunt, because a stunt to me, it would have. You have to know that wasn't going to matter. I just feel that way. Like, you need to know. Like, I can't imagine they thinking that extending the moratorium would make a bigger difference. Like, there has to be some other strategy, and it seems like they don't have one. If they do have one, I'll correct the record and apologize, but it doesn't seem like they actually have one. That just seems like we'll do our best. That's what it seems like. And I just feel like we don't have do our best anymore. That's just not a viable solution. We need actual action. And I think that they know better, and I think they're smart enough to know that them sleeping on the Capitol would have done something better than – I think they could have done something better than sleeping on the Capitol. I think that the Supreme Court, you're right, but it still did it anyway. So I think they should have had some other strategy or some other mechanism other than that. I feel like that was a giant waste of time.
Right. Well, I will also say real quick, I think what they could have done and should have done, and this goes much broader, is in April, May, June of 2020, sat outside the Capitol steps, not for a moratorium, to cancel the damn rent, and to point what to what other countries were doing. And this goes to this idea that if we just kind of try to show our colleagues that these things are popular, or build relationships with them, or we're getting meetings with Biden's chief of staff, that somehow brick by brick this will happen, when in reality that's just it doesn't mean you're corrupt. It just means you're being seduced by the long-term strategy bullshit. But if they would have went out when literally you got 2,000 to 3,000 people dying a day, and people at home, depressed, anxious, not able to leave, and went onto the Capitol steps, then
Right.
you could have had a much different result. So that I agree with you.
No, I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree with that strategy. They should have did that months ago. They should have did that last year. I agree with that and cancel the rent. I mean, you have some protests for that too, but I don't know what kind of the effect is, because even during this whole thing, people are still being evicted. I was in Seattle. I was in DC, obviously, for the march. And there's so many tent cities, Jordan. It's crazy. I'm pretty sure you've seen it out there yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And that's all new evicted people. That's not like people who've been evicted, who've been homeless for years. Those are all new people. And if you go out there and talk to people, it's crazy. Like, you know that I'm new to activism and organizing, and like just talking to people now, it's like it's freaky. It's really wild that you just see them. You almost like see it in real time. That when you're on the ground, it's weird. It's very odd that if I was a civilian, quote unquote, I would just probably brush it off and say it's not that bad. But like being out there, you actually see how bad it is.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tell people kind of the who, what, when, and where. How can people get involved in this protest tomorrow?
Yeah. Go to our website. That's M4, and then all spelled out .org, and it gives all the information on our Richard Neal action. We're gonna show up literally at his front of his doorstep. We're gonna be peaceful, obviously, but we definitely want to make it. We want to make it clear that we definitely want this bill be on the floor. We definitely want to push Medicare for all the way. We definitely want to push other actions, so if people want to get involved, and there's other strategies they want to do in regards to Medicare for all, we're willing to listen to them. We're open. We want to apply as much pressure as possible. We don't want this to end. We want to keep going. So whatever people want to make recommendations, please also reach out to me on Twitter. That's IM4, the number 4, M4A. Also DM me there, and you also can DM the actual official March for Medicare for All Twitter account as well at M4All, and on Twitter as well.
Right. Thank you, man. I appreciate you coming on. We'll keep in
touch.
touch.
Thank you, Jordan, as well. Always, you guys do great work. Seriously, thank you so much.
Thanks. Peace out.
Bye.
So that was Sharif. Definitely check out details for this march, this protest outside Neal's house tomorrow, which I'm excited about. So we got a couple more things to do. First, I want to show you a little sketch of a T-shirt we have that I've been bugging Colin and constantly telling him to fix or to make tweaks to. Colin, if you could show folks the leading candidate for a shirt that we might add to the StatusCoup store. So if people could let me know, how does that look? I don't know if there's a way to stretch it out so they could see it closer. But we want to have a United Corporations of America shirt. We might put the StatusCoup.com on the back. But I wanted to see if people think that sketch is a little too busy, a little too, it doesn't stand out. Because I would love to start seeing more and more people wearing United Corporations of America shirts. We'd put it in our store. I don't know how much it would cost us to make, but we wouldn't really charge much more than it costs us. But Colin, if you could put it back up or figure out a way to, Jordan, not a fan. Well, that's good to know. So let us know what you think. I kind of like it, to tell you the truth, but some people might think it's a little too busy. I don't know. But I want to get United Corporations of America shirt going. Try and replicate the corporation's flag. You see, it's a kind of a blurry area because the flag behind me is from a specific company who I actually think, has a copyright or something on it. So if we put out a flag with the same exact logos, we might be, okay, too busy, kind of boring. This is good. Good feedback. It's an effective message. So we got to get back to the grinder, Colin. Well, that's 2 comments. Not digging it. That's 3. All right. So we got a couple more. So we'll get back to it. It's kind of tough because I'd like the logos, but I'm not sure if it's copacetic, if we could have the logos. So that's one. I also wanted to show, if you have it, Colin, the Fossil Fuckers one, because I think this is pretty much ready to go. I love it. I love the shirts only if you have StatusCoup News on the back. Yeah, StatusCoup News will be on the back. But there's the Fossil Fuckers all the way on the right. See, you got the fossil fuckers on an oil rig with the no smoking sign. I do like that one. This one, I think we'd probably change the font to be a little bit more like bolder. But this one is a quote from yours truly. Most people don't lack compassion. And then on the back, most people have no idea what the fuck is going on. I say all around them, so we might have to add all around them. That one, I want to change the font to make it a little bolder. So let me know. You like? Oh, they like. Okay, I thought so. The fossil fuckers one is popular, so we might be ready with that. The United Corporations of America one, people say it's either too busy, lacking pizzazz. Send us an email with your thoughts. info@statuscoup.com. info@statuscoup.com. Would love to know. If we could also show, I mentioned it briefly at the beginning, if we could also show where we're at in the fundraiser. On Monday, I sent out an email to everybody saying, hey, we've had some unexpected costs. It hasn't been easy, recently. A lot of money we had to spend for a new website we're launching hopefully next week. The press release we put out with our Flint story, which is $2,500. The website's $5,000. Jen had to stay, almost an extra week in Flint because she got sick with a flare up of COVID, and she had to get not COVID, of long haul COVID. Fortunately, she didn't have COVID again, but she had to get tested and then quarantine until she got the results back. That cost us $800. Then you have the actual recent trip we took to Cleveland and Akron for Nina Turner's election, and then Flint to further push and cover our Flint water cover-up story. Now we have some costs now for our accountant and bookkeeper. So I pushed out, hey, let's try to raise $6,000 this week. We blew past that on Wednesday. So now we're at $8,300. I don't know. I'm a cynical fellow, but I also do believe, in being optimistic. Is it possible we could get this to $9,000, Colin, today? Is it possible? The GoFundMe, I mean, it's been coming hot and heavy. I want to read out some of them. You got Christopher, $6. Appreciate it. That was Christopher. Christopher, $50. Thank you, Christopher. Travis, $25. Bruce, $10. Anonymous, $15. Joseph, $20. Boo, $50. Raymond, $50. Holy cow. Brienne, $5. Rachel, $20. Eric, $10. Anonymous, $10. Scott, $25. Gregory, $20. Anonymous, $50. Terry, $50. Thank you for everybody that's been contributing. We really hope we could juice it up, possibly even to that $9,000. Because honestly, there's a ton of stories in addition to trying to kind of break even for these other costs we've had. We also are looking ahead, trying to see if we could cover line 3, the continued protests going on in Minnesota, some of these worker strikes that are going on all around the country, Alabama, Kansas. Nabisco is now in Oregon, Virginia, Colorado, Georgia. Now Starbucks trying to organize a union in Buffalo. I've been covering Amazon workers trying to form a union in New York. We'd like to cover some of those in person. We want to start covering progressive candidates who are starting their campaigns for Congress. So we really appreciate your support. You can support us. GoFundMe, if you could put up the link, Colin. PayPal, if you could put up the link. And CashApp. And also all of those are in the description right under the video. So you could just click on the description, GoFundMe. Also, I did forget, before I take questions, comments, concerns, I did forget the Super Chats yesterday, so I want to read those. Thank you for the Super Chat, Pink Moon. Right now, let me see if I missed any others. Did I miss any others, Colin? Hold on. Private chat. Lena Del Heights the clock, $20. Want to bring to your attention, in the spirit of fight on all fronts, the states that have medical programs on deck, onepayerstates.org. Oh, onepayerstates.org. Interesting. Okay. Thank you. I'll check it out. onepayerstates.org. Thank you for the super chat. Robin Bennett, $5. Appreciate it. Pink Moon, $5. Appreciate it. Let me get to the super chats I did not read yesterday. I am assuming most of them are just love for Richard Wolf, who was awesome on the show yesterday. Jean Genevieve, $4.99. Hope Jen is doing better. I wish I had better news. She's still pretty sick, so she's taking some time off. But thank you. I know she appreciated it. Robin Bennett yesterday, $20. Appreciate it. Das Bosch Fleisch, 9.99 euros. How about some stimuli like living wages or student debt relief? Oh, wouldn't that be great in the United Corporations of America? Thank you for the super chat. Observer, $5. Support Nabisco strikers. Their strike fund is on GoFundMe. I agree. I interviewed one of their workers last week from Portland. That's up on the channel. Mooj, $2. Appreciate it. Zach, $10. Richard Wolf is helping me explain economics to my 12-year-old son. That's worth way more than $10. Wow. That is a high compliment. That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, Richard Wolf, I think, explains things in a digestible way that anyone can understand, and also in a way that kind of is moral and inspires. So to have both of that, where you're actually getting the concepts, but also have that moral component to it, I think is super great. He's great. Abner Reed, 24, $5. Dr. Wolf has hit the nail on the head as always. Lanadell hates the clock, $10. Appreciate it. The VFX by Art, $4.99. Thank you for having Dr. Wolf on, of course. Chris Garrett, $5. Thank you, StatusCoup, for bringing Professor Wolf on. He is actually providing some hope for change. I agree. Fly Chomper Fly, $5. Geesh. Working on a deadline plus 2 other events tonight, so I cannot stay to watch the whole thing. Crap. Thanks for having Wolf on. Well, the whole thing's up on the channel, so you could go back and watch it if you want. Bob, $9.99. Keep it up. Appreciate it. Joshua, $5. Thank you. Joshua, another $5. I wish the centrist defenders would work other jobs. Wouldn't that be nice? Thomas, $10. Thank you for your hard work. Zachary, tip $2, I think, in Rockfin. Thank you so much. So those were the super chats yesterday. I'll read any more that come in today. If I missed any, hold on. All right. I think I'm caught up. So we got the GoFundMe. Please, if you can, keep contributing. You know, there's plenty of outlets out there that beg you for money, and you give them money, and then what do they actually do with it? Questions. What do they do with it other than talking about Republicans are bad, or, you know, Trump or Russia, or, you know, a slightly edgy version of being warmongers? They beg you to fund them so they could survive, but they don't actually do anything with your money. Do they hire reporters to go anywhere? Do they hire reporters to investigate anything? Just asking for a friend. So appreciate the GoFundMe donations. Keep it coming. So want to take some questions, comments, concerns. Colin, if you have to go, don't worry about it. I'll just end it when I'm ready. Let's see. Would love to see Professor Wolf make a return. I would too. I'm going to have to ask him if we can get him on at least once a month, because he's great. He did well, but I disagree with him. Richard Wolf. Okay, that's fine. Or me. See, this is what I like, Cheryl. When is in the left, it's kind of in rare form now that we could watch something, disagree with it, but not like rage, and just take, for what it's worth, appreciate it. Don't agree with you, but still know your intentions are good. It's nice to see people saying that. Youngstown Original Clothing, don't donate to the squad. I don't think I've ever told anybody to. I didn't even tell people to donate to Bernie. See, that's what I think people, because they're rightfully angry, they're kind of like confusing what I think Jen have been saying. We're not here to defend the squad. I don't really care about the squad. I just covered a protest outside AOC's office. So challenging your thoughts is not the same thing as send flowers to the squad. What we've been saying is, what's your strategy? What I've been saying is, what is your strategy? Because I hear a lot of people who, I've said all along, have a right to be angry, have a right to be cynical, have a right to be frustrated, hopeless. They knocked on doors for these politicians. They voted for these politicians. They donated to these politicians, and they don't feel that they're fighting hard enough. So I don't have a problem with them feeling that way. I think we might part ways is I'm frustrated in the fact that all I'm really seeing is just ranting and raving about those politicians, at those politicians, with nothing else behind it. I'm sorry, folks. I was for forced to vote. I still believe in it. It happened 8 months ago. That can't be the sole topic of the progressive movement. It can't be the sole strategy of the progressive movement. Okay. Secondly, I'm sorry to say, but I'm not going to just tell people what they want to hear. A third party cannot be the sole party of the progressive movement. You know, I've covered MPP. I like what they're doing. I got to tell you, that's a long-term strategy. And if they tell you different, I don't agree. That's not a short-term strategy that will right away or very soon get us Medicare for all, Green New Deal, things like that. Not because they're bad, because it's not easy in this structural rot of America to create a third party. You got to get on the ballots. Even if you get on the ballots, you got to figure out a way to get through the media blackout. Got to find the candidates. You'd be up against the media, the corporations. You think they try to screw Democrats with election fraud and things like that? Wait till you have an actual third party who might have some candidates that can compete. So for the people that say, to hell with the Democratic Party, we should put all our attention in third parties, I don't agree with that either. Not because the Democratic Party is great, but I just don't think, I personally don't think most people have 10 years to wait for that. It doesn't mean don't work to build a third party, but I don't agree with that exclusively being the strategy. Nor do I believe the exclusive strategy should be, focusing on progressive candidates, focusing on, donating, volunteering, working on campaigns. That can't be the full strategy either. To me, and I wrote about it on our Substack. Let me get the link here if you want to read it. Anybody could read it. This one was free. We appreciate everybody who, by the way, has signed up for our Substack. That's just another way we could earn money. Hold on. Hold on. Here's the Substack I wrote. I have talked to Chris Hedges. I've interviewed him twice, so thanks. So to me, we're already seeing what an effective strategy could be. It's just that people, instead of focusing on this, they're still focusing on being online and ranting and raving. Workers are striking across this country. Are you aware that since 2001, 20 years ago, 2001 was the last year where you had this amount of work stoppages. In 2001, you had 29 work stoppages. Since then, you haven't had many major union drives. You haven't had major strikes. And all of a sudden, they're popping up everywhere. Almost every day, I see a new strike or company workers trying to unionize. Some of them are big, some of them are smaller. Okay? So you're seeing in real time organizing. Some of them will lose, some of them will win, but it is contagious in a good way. Okay? So you're seeing these workers, or let's look at Christian Smalls and workers at Amazon. They're not waiting for AOC or the Squad or Bernie. They're taking power into their own hand. They're taking power into their own hand. They're organizing. They are working with lawyers in the background to have protection while they organize. They are working to get better leverage for workers. For example, the Amazon workers right now are trying to get the National Labor Relations Board to expand Weingarten rights to non-unionized workers. In English, Weingarten rights for union workers allow you, if you're called into HR, to bring a witness. Non-unionized workers don't have that protection. So you have Amazon HR pulling in workers, threatening them, intimidating them with no witnesses. So there are a lot of things going on right now. But if you only looked at Twitter or YouTube wars, you might not even know about all that's happening. So my point to you is it's not an all or nothing. And people who think it's an all or nothing, we got to totally stop focusing on electoral politics. Don't vote or don't support any candidate. Or we got to totally focus on electoral politics. Or we got to totally focus on a third party. We need to focus on anything that will work, in my view, in the short term. If it's a multi-prong approach, so be it. It's not like Martin Luther King said, no, we're only going to march with these people and we're only going to work with these people. No, I don't know many successful movements that have worked that way. So some might ask, well, Jordan, wouldn't these general strikes or economic protests, wouldn't it be easier if we had politicians on the inside pushing it? Of course it would. Of course it would. People should really make sure they understand. I don't care if you like the squad. I don't care if you support the squad. I don't even care if you organize to primary the squad. It would, of course, work to have people inside pushing those things. But I think people are kind of confusing it would help with it's absolutely necessary. It's not absolutely necessary. Okay? If you think the squad's not doing enough, don't donate to them. Don't support them. Don't organize primary challenges to them. But it can't only be like being keyboard warriors and just ranting and raving, thinking we could rant and rave change into existence. We need people to actually take action and organize on the outside. And frankly, I don't agree with this notion. I know Sharif feels differently than me. I don't agree with this notion. Let's completely just check out on electoral politics. I mean, that doesn't make much sense. You don't have to focus as much as you used to. You could be a lot more cautious with candidates. But if there's a candidate in your local community, or like Nina Turner, and they are with us on policy and they have a track record in Nina Turner's case of fighting, or they don't have a track record, but your gut tells you they mean business, they're going to fight, you're not going to support them because they have a D next to their name, when in most places, by the way, they could only run as a Democrat. Like Nina Turner, as I said, your favorite YouTube host probably didn't tell you this, she didn't have an option to run as anything other than a Democrat. MPP was not on the ballot in Ohio. Neither is the Green Party anymore. Technically, she could have ran as an independent in the general election. Okay, so you wanted to run as an independent in the general election, skip the Democratic primary, and lose by 50? To you, that's progress? Because that's what would have happened, by the way. In most like hardcore blue areas, the primary is the election. Whoever wins the primary wins in a landslide. And that's how it's happened in that district, by the way. Marcia Fudge, who was the congressperson in the district Nina Turner was trying to win, she won by 60 points in the general election against the Republican. So, okay, but we could have made a point and Nina could have been pure by running as an independent. I care. I want to win. I don't know about other people. I want to win some things here. Richard Wolff said it yesterday. I mean, let me get the quote. He said, hold on. I'm always depressed by the left of this country. I ascribe that to having been pushed so far out of the political life of this country as a whole for so long that it has lost sight of what it takes to win. So if you've given up, even if you're not conscious of it, the idea you could ever win, then you become vulnerable to thinking, okay, we can't win, but at least I could be right, have the right answer, the right program, the right analysis, and that's a dead end. So listen, if people, I'm seeing people, oh, Jordan, I'm canceling my membership, or I'm done. Goodbye. If you don't want your views challenged at all, if you're a snowflake and only could watch channels that are going to feed you what you want to hear 24/7, we're not for you. Because I have never once played for clicks. And if I did want to play for clicks, trust me, I would have covered Trump, Russia, Stormy Daniels, and all that bullshit for the last 5 years. We're not here to, I think it's actually a disservice to viewers to just kind of like feed them what they want to hear all the time. If I don't agree with you, I'm going to say so. And I'm going to try and explain to you why I don't agree. So to me, we have major movement in terms of labor, workers fighting back, workers organizing. So if everybody who is spending 70% of their time ranting and raving on the internet, whether it's at the squad, Bernie, it doesn't really matter. actually organizing, and again, easier said than done. Some people work 2 to 3 jobs, got to take care of your kids at night. Everybody's situation is different, and you can't do anything more than watch shows or whatever. That's okay. But for those that can, do you really think just bitching online, even though you're right to be pissed off and cynical, do you really think that's getting you Medicare for all or a Green New Deal? I was speaking with someone earlier who said, before we could act, we have to filter out who's not left and who's not really with us. And I think this idea, by the way, has been filtered into their head. I don't really think my opinions on the Young Turks, for example, is a secret. I mean, people know how I feel. But if the Young Turks ceased to exist tomorrow, it wouldn't change a damn thing as far as us getting Medicare for all, a Green New Deal, banning fracking, raising the minimum wage, I think, to $25. I think $15 is a joke. Reparations for Black people, defunding the police. If people think like the holy grail for these things, and we could really start accomplishing things if we just get rid of the Young Turks or this person or that person, or if we just close ranks and eliminate all these phony progressives. I'm sorry, but that's just wrong. And this is coming from someone who really would not have an issue, would be fine with them not existing. So I think people, listen, sometimes you need tough love. And I think people don't like their views being challenged, especially on the internet. Because in the last 20 years, both television and the internet have really just become this cocoon of people gravitating to consuming things that already validate what they think, whether what they think is right or wrong. We didn't build StatusCoup to just feed you and whatever you want to hear 24/7. I think the Young Turks, when I was there, I publicly said when I was there, they were fucking moving to this Trump derangement. And, privately, I told them, I don't know why you don't double down on the in the field reporting that we're doing, since you're growing really quickly. The channel I did for them, you're getting more members people to sign up as paid members because of the in the field reporting. This is not a love letter to the Young Turks. My whole point is, I'm telling you, and this is from somebody's eyes who has been out there for 6 years, seeing the corruption, seeing the injustice up close. You're being sold a bunch of bullshit. We're not going to rant and rave, change into existence. That's not the same thing as you could criticize politicians. I'm not telling you not to. Protest them, try to find primary opponents to them. Hey, have at it. We'll cover it. I'm not like bowing down to the squad. I don't care about the squad. Even Bernie, who I have a lot of respect for, this is, you don't have to worship Bernie. But if you really believe those individuals are the ones blocking you for Medicare for all or a Green New Deal or name your passion or policy that you champion, if you think those are the main impediments and those are who we should be focusing on, you're just wrong. Jordan, you can't live on $15 an hour in most of the United States. Right. That's why I just said bullshit. Fly Chopper Fly, $5. Reality. If you have time to be a keyboard warrior, you have time to text bank, phone bank, write some postcards, the organizational train, and make it easy to do so. It's a great point. That's a very, very good point. Let's see. Fly Chopper Fly, $5. Yes. Just try to get through the media blackout with third party. One of the main problems, and third party is a long-term strategy, not even in many states. Right. But some people are going to be triggered by that. Some people are going to say, oh, Jordan, you're sheepdogging. You're a sheepdog for the Democratic Party. Or as Steven says, Jordan is terrible at politics. Hey, Steven, let me ask you, if I'm terrible at politics, how has the ranting and raving on the internet been working out? Seriously. I genuinely am asking you, how has whatever the strategy is of the people whose main focus has been on the squad and Bernie and burn it all down, how's that strategy working out? Because that's my main frustration. I would be glad to have like a substantive debate with anyone, but I don't really hear a strategy coming from. Force the vote's not a strategy. It was a tool that could have been used in the moment. I think it could still be used. I was for it then. I'm for it now. That is not a strategy to getting Medicare for all. It could help us at least put a little stain and egg on the people blocking us from it. But the reality is that does not address the main reason we don't have Medicare for all, which is not the politicians. It's right behind me. Look at the flag. The reason we don't have Medicare for all is not the squad, Bernie. It's not even Pelosi in them. It's the donors they serve. Even though the squad doesn't take corporate money or whatever, the main issue is the structural corruption and rot of our government. So what exactly is the strategy? Because 100% focus on the third party, to me, that's not it. 100% focus on general strike or economic protest, that's not it either. 100% focus on electoralism is not it. To me, you got to dip your toe into everything. It doesn't. And by the way, this whole notion that like we have to, the Democratic Party, it's like we have to hate them or love them or whatever. To me, politics is transactional. I could vote for a Republican if I think it would benefit the progressive movement. I've actually there was a Justice Democrat in 2018 I met, or I don't remember when, who was running as a Republican in some southern state, progressive. To me, politics is transactional. I don't need to trust the squad. I don't need to trust Bernie. I don't need to love the Democratic Party or hate it. How I view it is what will get things done now. Whether I like the people doing it or not, whether I feel they've sold out or not, what will get things done now? That's not incrementalism. That's just being practical. So to me, if the squad didn't do what I wanted in January, I criticize them. But if they're starting to do it in August, because they are starting to vote as a block, or at least express that they're going to vote as a block, why wouldn't I think that's a good thing? Why wouldn't I just acknowledge, oh, they're finally doing what we demanded they did? People were responding to that. Oh, you're telling us to slobber over them or thank them for doing what they should do. Well, you sure had plenty of time to criticize them for not doing what you want them to do. So why is it that the same people who have been ranting and raving at them for months can't acknowledge when they're actually doing something good? I guess that goes against the narrative of burn it all down and everyone's awful. So again, even crediting politicians apparently means you're a sheepdog or this nihilism. It's coming from a place that I understand. When people are economically desperate, when people have basically been abandoned by their government, they're looking for someone to blame. Trump capitalized on that by being a phony populist. Some much, much darker figures in world history capitalized on that by exterminating whole races and religions. So people look for who to blame, and that's fine. You don't need to like the squad. You don't need to wear AOC shirts. I don't give a shit. But Jesus, if people's strategy is just to fight each other on the internet for the next 5 years, good luck. Good luck. When anyone criticizes the squad, then the infighting starts. No, I don't think that's true, Carl. I mean, I've criticized the squad quite a bit the last few months. To me, the infighting, let's just call it what it is. It's nonstop videos on YouTube and nonstop Twitter wars between this host and that host, or this channel doing commentary on that channel. It really is just a food fight on the internet. The squad isn't causing that. It's actual people causing that. I've been stunned because I'm out covering strikes. I literally was in New York, in the city, as the Alabama coal miners came up. 600 of them came up to New York City. Also, union folks from Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Ohio came. There was 700, 800 people outside BlackRock. There were progressives tweeting about it. I think I saw 1 or 2 shows do a video. That was it. Instead of doing videos on that and focusing on that and informing people about that and encouraging your viewers to get involved, it was just an endless sea of this person's horrible. Host X bashes host Y. If you guys think this is actually productive, I got news for you. It's not. It's entertaining. It's entertaining for sure. Thomas, $5. Do you think by constantly addressing the leftist infighting is actually making the infighting worse? Why not? Why not just not cover it? You know, that's actually a good question. I address it because it's not a minor thing anymore. I mean, I hate to say it. This is growing to be 50, 60% of the left. It's not a minor thing that if we just don't address it, it no longer matters. If that were the case, I wouldn't talk about this at all. But I'm seeing it not only online, but when I'm out in the field. So I wish I didn't have to address it. I understand the notion, well, if you keep addressing it, aren't you giving it more energy? Whether I address it or not, all you got to do is look online. All you got to do is look at, this conglomerate of YouTube shows and tweeters. I don't think just kind of closing your eyes and pretending it's not there makes an impact either. But I appreciate the super chat. And it's not a bad point. I do understand why you asked that. All right, let me see. And I also want to address something else because I really don't like it and I have a problem with it. I think it's pretty interesting when people online, Twitter, YouTube, whatever, there's basically a digital curtain between us, right? So people will say whatever the hell they want to say that they probably 95% of them would never say in person in front of anybody's face, right? So you have people, all day long on Twitter, it's just become an endless firing squad. You're a sellout, you're a fraud, you're a coward, you're this, you're that. You're really a Republican, whatever. And a lot of it's true and a lot of it's not. But all these people who, I understand why they're saying this. I understand why they're angry and cynical and frustrated. Like, I want you to know, I do get it. I'm not trying to condescend you or look down on you. But all these people, if somebody like me or Jen, by the way, I've talked to independent hosts, I'm not going to say their names, privately, that feel the exact same way as us. The exact same way as us. But for their own reasons, don't want to get involved. Like, I'm talking big name people. Feel the exact same way as us and have actually thanked us for speaking out on this. But I do find it kind of interesting that all these people who, whatever, they want to burn it all down or filter out the left to throw out whoever's not left enough or not pure. If you at all, forget challenge, if you at all even comment on the things they're saying, or gingerly, very kindly, very softly challenge their strategy. Not like that not that they should slobber over the squad, but if you even challenge their thinking, like, okay, but like, what's the strategy beyond this ranting? Literally, it's like they have the same script. Stop punching down. Stop attacking working class people. Or my favorite, oh, you're an access journalist. Access to who? Look through StatusCoup. Find me the interviews with AOC and Bernie and the squad. My access is to the people of Flint and other working class communities screwed. But it's just amazing to me, just the psychology that all of these people, it's like open season. They could go after anybody. They could rant, rave, call everybody and their mother a fraud. But if they're challenged at all, boy, they cannot take it. They cannot take it at all. These same people say, "Oh, it's bad. You're attacking me. Bad faith attacks, or I'm hurt, or you're punching down." Listen, I would love to have kind conversations with everybody and sit down and have tea. If people have watched me, that's not exactly my style. It's not because I want to be rude, but like I just believe in being direct. So if I see a movement that I very much care for, the progressive movement, in my view, Twitter is saying Jordan and Jen get big Flint money to cover them. What? Big Flint money? Show me the receipts. Big Flint money. Oh, I wish. Big Flint money. Yes. Elon Musk is funding me in Flint. Elon Musk, who gave money to Flint schools for water filtration, he's paying us. Or David Brock is paying us. I think people need to make a choice. You're free to criticize whoever you want, but don't sit there and act so snowflakey, like a bunch of snowflakes. That, you know, if you're at all challenged or there's any pushback on you, oh, it's punching down and evil and all this stuff. Give me a fucking break. Give me a break. Jordan, Linear Bob. Jordan, I think part of the problem is frustration. Being polite and gentle has too often resulted in being ignored or condescended to. I love that comment. Who's telling you to be polite and gentle? Who told you to be polite and gentle? My point is not your tone. My point is, what is the strategy beyond ranting and raving at politicians? This is what I'm trying to say. I don't personally think it's effective to call people that you're trying to convince to do things, sellouts, frauds, cowards. Like, that's just human psychology. If people were trying to persuade me to do something and they were calling me all these names, I don't know if I'd be inclined to do it. Now, you might say, well, they're politicians. They should be above that. Well, human beings are human beings. So I don't personally think it's effective to do that, but whatever. So putting that aside, who's telling you to be kind to them? I'm asking, what is the strategy beyond the ranting and raving? Because I'm sorry, if you genuinely think that focusing exclusively on the squad, AOC, Bernie, that's going to bring us to Medicare for all, or focusing exclusively on let's get rid of TYT or this person or that host or that show, that's going to open up the seas so we could really get down to work, you're being sold a bill of bullshit. I don't care if TYT goes out tomorrow, happy days. I don't care. So my point is not, and honestly, I don't think a lot of people have been asking this, because I think a lot of people that have been consuming this kind of talk, Twitter, YouTube, they're just so fixated, they're so glued to it because they're having their views and anger validated that they're maybe not asking the next step. Okay, but what now? What now? Okay, we know who we don't like. We know who we think's letting us down. What are we going to do now? Factual fate. They actually love it. They scoop up more subs from it. Oh, absolutely. I can't tell you how many times we've been in the field. I was covering Breonna Taylor. I interviewed Breonna Taylor's aunts in Louisville. You see many independent channels covering that. And the cover-up of her murder, I think we had like 200 live viewers, and another show that was doing this clickbaity YouTube fights between people had like 1,000. To me, it's not so much jealousy, like whatever, good for them if they want to grow based on bullshit. It's more frustration that actual real stories and issues are getting drowned out. Because independent media, I thought the purpose of independent media was to cover what the corporate media is covering up, was to counter the corporate propaganda from the corporate media. I didn't think it was really just to create a TMZ on the internet. Jordan's macro and cheese interview is coming out tomorrow. Oh, I'm looking forward to that. I enjoy doing it. Jordan, the idea, 6 JDC, the idea that you're an access journalist is hilarious. Oh boy, let me tell you something. First of all, a lot of people were criticizing my Nina Turner interview in Cleveland a couple months ago. That's fine. If, I'm public. If you don't think I was hard enough, that's okay. But they don't realize they told me we were going to have 30 minutes. They started winding it down after 15 minutes. Why do you think that was? They started making signs like this after 15 minutes because they knew things I was asking her might, to them, put her in jeopardy if she gave certain answers. But this whole access journalism, like, I don't really know who I'm getting access to. Like, I don't know if AOC's people reached out to me today and said, we'd like to do an interview with you. Of course I'd do it. But like, I when I was at the Young Turks, I reached out to Bernie's people for an interview. A month ago, I reached out to Bernie's person to tweet something about our Flint story. Other than that, I've never even asked them for interviews. I mean, would I like an interview with Bernie? Sure. But like, Status Coup's growth is not dependent on access to politicians. It's actually the opposite. It's dependent on access to communities, access to activists to working people. So yeah, I love me being an access journalist. Thomas, $10 in a super chat. But don't you think that you're kind of amplifying the infighting by addressing it? You could commentate on other subjects and ignore it. I say this in good faith. I'm a Status Coup member. No, I appreciate it. Oh, well, first of all, I hope if you're watching the show and you remember, you do see we cover a hell of a lot more than leftist infighting. I mean, you show me any other channel doing the amount of interviews we're doing with workers that are striking, covering companies, workers organizing, covering environmental protests, covering Flint. So I hope you feel we do a whole lot more than that. But amplifying the infighting by addressing it, I mean, I think technically on paper, obviously, if you're acknowledging something, it feeds more energy. And if you're acknowledging it, it's going to give people more energy to tweet at you and criticize you. So in that way, yeah, you're right. It does kind of, I guess, amplify it. But on the same token, I don't really think if your goal is for progressive movement to achieve something, I don't really think ignoring a growing trend in the progressive movement, a trend that I think is toxic and self-sabotaging, I don't know if ignoring it necessarily is good either, because it whether I ignore it or I comment, it's not going away. I mean, you could see every week it's a new thing. Every week it's a new thing. If Anna Kasparian tweets something, there's a whole cycle for 3 or 4 days. And, I'm not a fan, by the way. If Kyle Kalinske says something or does something, it's a whole cycle for 5 or 6 days. So I don't really think me commenting on it makes it bigger, or not commenting on it makes it bigger. And I just feel, honestly, morally, as somebody who cares, I can't, if you saw your friends or your family kind of marching in front of a train, you'd obviously do something. And I feel progressives are collectively marching on a slow death march to nowhere. So I know you're, and by the way, I appreciate you saying that, because I don't think you're completely wrong. Obviously, by talking about it and acknowledging it, it doesn't help it to go away. But I also don't think by just shutting your eyes and pretending something's not going on helps either, in my opinion. Henry, I'm sure Jordan could do a much more in-depth interview with Nina now that she's not on the campaign trail. Oh, I'm sure I could. So we'll see. Jordan, you should just try ignoring it. You could always go back addressing it later. Yeah, I get your point. Ian, Jordan is a journalist who investigates head and shoulders above the crowd. Hey, I've always said, and Jen has always said, we don't view ourselves as like holier than thou or better than anyone because like we go out there and others don't. It's not for everybody. I mean, it's really hard to travel and to cover things in the field. It's a thankless job. Often you do not make as much money as being a bomb thrower on the internet. Physically, you could wear out. I've had 2 back surgeries. I actually hurt my ankle earlier this week, so I've been icing it. Just mentally and physically, it's spiritually, it's tough going out there and covering these things, because I already have depression. I take medicine for it. So if you're going in and seeing people poisoned in an American community, and 7.5 years later, them still getting rashes and losing hair and a lot of them dying, that's freaking depressing. If you're covering environmental protests and you see government officials and police shooting at indigenous people, it's depressing. You could have PTSD from it. To a certain degree, I had a little PTSD after Standing Rock for a while. It's not for everybody. But I do think, you know, when I hear people say I'm canceling my membership because you're pushing back on me, that always frustrates me, not just because of like the, you know, obviously we want people to stay members so we could fund this, but it frustrates me because I think people like, maybe they're just losing sight that like actual journalism is in really, really rare form. I mean, other than us, a couple channels here and there, when we go out to places, there's no other media covering it. National media, not there. Local media, not there. So I really hope, you know, you could disagree with me on certain things, but I really, you know, show me everybody else doing it. Show me everybody else doing it. That's the point. Let me keep going. Oh, I'm enjoying reading all these comments. Factual fatal. My favorite thing is when they go on and on about how terrible Republicans are and show nonstop right-wing media on the left. WTF, LOL. I don't know who you're talking about. I can't stand. I mean, I got really annoyed when I was at the Young Turks by the time I left. I mean, I had said it publicly. I got really annoyed with like the Trump derangement syndrome and like the whole show was Trump. I think they had a loser Donald segment. I mean, yeah, he was running and he was the Republican nominee, so cover him, but they completely stopped covering Hillary's corruption. WikiLeaks, when the WikiLeaks emails come out, I had to send them spoon feed to the producers on the show, the big revelations, because they weren't really covering it. They were only reading emails that made the media look bad. So, yep. Jonathan, I follow a lot of leftist personalities on both sides of the infighting. With some, I agree more with others. I believe we are getting caught up in our differences over more than pushing an actual agenda. Jonathan, from your lips to God's ears, if a God exists, this is what I've been saying, and you just put it much more eloquently than I. Keyword, caught up in differences without having an agenda. Because again, third party right now, it's not it. That can't be the whole plan. That can't be the whole plan. Or just economic protest can't be the whole plan. Or just let's keep trying to get progressives into Congress. Can't be the whole plan. There needs to be an actual strategy, and there is not. There is not, unfortunately. Rock and Drew 88. I canceled my membership because you have no substantial vision to move society forward. You say anything the peasants do is the wrong strategy over and over again. First of all, bye-bye. That's fine. Secondly, I don't know if you know like what we do here. I'm a journalist. Jen's a journalist. It's not our responsibility to provide you with a vision. I have been asked as a journalist to be involved with the activism, to help them organize things. I said no every time, not because I don't support what they're doing, because that's not my role as a journalist. My role is to cover it, not be involved and prop it up. So no substantial vision. Well, here's my vision. I think most people in America, from what I've seen, traveling the country, rather than just being a keyboard warrior, I think most people in America actually do have compassion, believe it or not, even those on the right in a lot of cases. Most people have no fucking idea what the hell is going on all around them. Let me repeat. Most people have compassion. Most people have no idea what's going on because of the corporate media not telling them, because of politicians distracting them. So my vision and Jen's vision is let's wake people the fuck up, show them what's going on, and then the people could take action based on learning what's going on. So if you canceled your membership because I have not delivered to you a vision for society, bye-bye. And by the way, you say anything the peasants do is the wrong strategy. Correct me. What are you doing? What are you doing? What is the strategy? Force the vote? I agreed with it. That's not a strategy. That's a tactic. It's not a strategy. I agree with it now. That's not a strategy to getting us Medicare for all, Green New Deal, uncorrupt government, getting money out of politics. I'd love to know what the strategy is. I've been asking for it. Nobody tells me. They just say, stop punching down. So take your membership. Bye-bye. We don't need you. Even though I think status quo's politics are mild, I recognize that the coverage is important. Sulfic manatee. So that's a fair comment, but I don't really get what you mean is mild. See, to me, not just in politics, but in life, actions speak louder than words. So my politics on policy is probably the same exact thing as you. I'm for Medicare for all. I'm for a $25 minimum wage. I actually am for a jobs guarantee. I'm for reparations for Black people. I think Bernie should have been for that as a candidate. I'm for actually honoring treaties with indigenous people. So I think we agree on a lot more than we disagree on. What I think we disagree on is how are we going to get those things? So anyway, Taylor, have you had Lauren Steiner on the show? Something tells me she might have a strategy. It's interesting you said that because I spoke with her the other day. Stay tuned on that. I don't want to get into it, but there might be something with her and Status Coup. Let me see. Motto, beauty and the diabetes. Status Quo's motto is to bring the microphone back to the people, and that is exactly what they're doing. Absolutely. I appreciate it. 6JCD. Jordan, Status Quo, Jordan and Jen, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Prioritize your health when it seems like you should. You've already contributed more than just about anyone. Well, I appreciate that. If you want to know the truth, and Jen, when I told her this, kind of semi-collapsed. I said, you know what? I think we should start making it a habit to just completely shut down for 2 weeks at the end of the summer. All of us, me, you, Colin, just go dark. I like that, Sulaboon. Quote, I'm canceling my membership because I pay you to agree with me, not cover the news. Thank you. This is it. People cancel their memberships. People unsubscribe because you're not feeding me the rage I need to be fed with. Then go watch somebody else. Honestly, I'm not going to twist into a pretzel to feed people whatever they want to hear 24/7. You know who does that and has been doing it for 20 years? Something called Fox News. Their viewers watch Fox News. Rush Limbaugh's listeners listen to him so that they can have their own views validated, in many cases, racist, crazy views, validated all the time. Look, Fox lost half their audience because they wouldn't buy in or at least prop up the whole election fraud stuff. And Newsmax and OANN, was it? They had a huge ratings surge because they were buying into this election fraud. It's rare I credit Fox News, but credit to them for not doing that. So if you're the type of person that's going to cancel your membership because the rare people that actually go out and cover things in the field and leave their studio isn't feeding you what you want to hear 24/7, bye-bye. I'd rather not have you. Sorry. Robert, when is Tina going to be back on, as she is one of my favorite YouTube journalists? Yeah, we have Tina on, whenever she covers things, breaks things. So we really love Tina. What I was saying is, I said to Jen, to whoever said about our health, I'm burnt out. I think we should just shut down for 2 weeks at the end of August. It's a little late now, but going forward, maybe before we shut down, tell people, listen, we're burnt out. We're doing this with 3 people. We're doing the job of 20 people with 3 people. So I think for all of us, we need a break for 2 weeks so we can recharge. If you could drop in some money to support us, because obviously if we're dark, we're going to lose money. And she was like, no, we can't all do that at the same time. I don't know. I disagree with that. But yeah, and every time I try to take actual days off, I don't manage to take days off because the videos need to be published, or there's a business thing going on behind the scenes I have to talk about, or I have to get in a call about something, or sources call me. And I kind of have a problem saying no to a lot of stories. So yeah, but we do definitely need to focus on health. And by the way, keep that GoFundMe coming. We have raised $8,300 so far this week. I'd love to pump it to 9,000. I would love to pump it 9,000 because that would really help us break even on a lot of the costs we've had, and also have a little extra left over for the stories we want to cover. VSA Dems. Jordan, I'm a member at the highest level. I'm not able to watch the Medicare for All video. It says it's not available on my device. Please respond. I ask you and Jen repeatedly, which Medicare for All video? Medicare for All March video. They took it down. They took our Medicare for All March live stream down, but I believe they put it back up after we ranted and raved. So email me, info@statuscoup.com. I'll look at it after the live stream. If you're having trouble finding it, if you're talking about the live stream Jen covered, it was put back up. So if you're not finding it, email me and I'll send it to you. That's info@statuscoup.com. Andrew, where are you going to go on vacation? Well, I was very, very fortunate to have an amazing honeymoon in May. We went to Sedona in Arizona, where I almost fell off a mountain. If they tell you it's just hiking, like leisurely hiking in Sedona, some of it is, some of it's not. We took a hike that apparently was mountain climbing without any guardrails, and you had to be on all fours, and it was scary. So we were in Sedona, Arizona. We then went to Hawaii, which was incredible. And I'll tell you, folks, if I ever do retire, I'd love to do it in Hawaii. It's just incredible. It's a whole different mindset. It's a whole different energy. It's just what life should be. A lot of love, a lot of beauty. People calm, enjoying themselves, enjoying connecting with people. Hawaii. Then we went to Napa, where I got drunk for 2 days and I loved it. And then we finished in San Francisco. So it was an amazing honeymoon, almost 3 weeks. We didn't get to take a honeymoon after we got married because of COVID. So we took it after we got vaccinated and all that. If I were to take a vacation now, I kind of want to go to Colorado. I've only been there once, but I've heard amazing things just about nature, cabin life, that kind of stuff. I'd love to check out Colorado. I do like Portland. I've been to Portland. I like Seattle. I've been to once. I do like Maine, where I actually proposed to my wife in Maine last year. But if you have suggestions for where I could vacation, please. Also, I would very much like a vacation where I sit my ass on the couch, watch Netflix, eat bad food, drink whiskey for a week. I could be very content with that kind of vacation too. What do they call that? A staycation? Bill Bradley, you probably want to avoid trying to invalidate people's feelings. It's almost never productive. Bill, I guess you missed the line that I've kept saying over and over and over and over. You have a right to be angry. You have a right to be frustrated. You have a right to be cynical. You have a right to be hopeless. Nobody is saying you guys are just complaining and stop it. My point is not to invalidate your feelings. My point is to say, what next? What is next after the ranting and raving against all the politicians? Oh, Bill, sorry. I got confused. It's hard reading comments. Buy, rant, or ruin. Is there a chance you could all add the word news or reporting or something to all of your stickers and make and mass and stuff? The word coup is so forward that people misunderstand the advertising. Well, we actually changed our YouTube name. If you look under, it's Status Coup News. Same thing with our Twitter. But yeah, I think we can for other things. I was kind of resistant to changing it because I just love Status Coup. But I do understand, especially after an attempted coup, that people could get the wrong idea. So yeah, we have changed the YouTube channel headline or title to news, and also our Twitter. Status Coup News. I'd be interested in seeing the result of a poll comparing solely the entertainment value among left channels. I'd imagine there's quite the correlation with viewership numbers. Oh, absolutely. I don't need a poll. I could tell you right now, you look at certain channels that have been doing this clickbait bullshit nonstop, like almost all their live streams, where they get 1,000 live viewers or 1,200 or 1,300. When they do the rare video on something substantive, having nothing to do with this YouTube host fighting, it goes to like 200 live viewers, 300 live viewers. So, I mean, there's your poll. I think a lot of these people maybe are getting caught up in this and think people are watching this because they love these hosts. No, they're just watching it for the train wreck and the food fight. If those same hosts go back to covering something substantive, they're not going to watch it. The story of Status Coup. But we've never changed what we cover based on views or clickbait, because we have felt if we cover things that should be covered, if we get out there, we will build and we will grow and we will get people to sign up as paying members. And that is what is happening. Thankfully. Bye, Ranter Ruin. I love Status Coup. We love you. Base Basky 9. Jordan, have you considered writing a book on Flint? Your work deserves a Pulitzer. Have you been spying on me, Basky? Have you been spying on me? I just had a conversation actually this morning with my wife that I think I'm ready to start working on that. I've written kind of an online book called Corporate Con Job. I don't know. I think I still have the Patreon for that. So if you want to read my book, Corporate Con Job, there's a Patreon for it. Corporate Con Job. Let me see if it's still there. I literally haven't updated it in so long. So this is a book chapter by chapter showing kind of the behind the scenes of my coverage in 2016, Standing Rock, Flint, and many other things. But yeah, I have thought about writing a book with Flint. It's just been so difficult because to me, when you're working on a book, you kind of have to be consumed with that. It's very hard to work on a book and be in that zone while you're doing live streams every day, while you're working on other investigative stories. It's hard. I mean, that's why a lot of people go on like book leave if they're fortunate enough to be a journalist and their company gives them book leave to go write a book. Obviously, we don't have the luxury of me going on book leave. But I am thinking of doing a book. I'm also thinking of doing a docu-series because I think we have enough that we have broken, that we have covered for at least a 6-episode docu-series. So I talked to 2 people about it this week. So I'm kind of sketching out what each episode would be, this and that. And then once I have that, trying to pitch it. But the book, I definitely want to start working on that too. And the book will not only be about what actually happened in Flint. I also want to have kind of as a parallel component how the media is responsible for what happened in Flint. The media is 100% responsible, maybe not for the initial poisoning, but the fact that it's still going on, the fact that there's been no justice, absolutely. So, and Puppet Image, stop thinking it's Jordan's fault he doesn't get the views. It's YouTube. Puppet, thank you. Thank you. And I just want to be honest, I think, who was it? I think it was Glenn Greenwald. He said this a few times, that the only journalism that matters is that journalism that gets maximum reach and affects change. Well, in fairness, I didn't have Edward Snowden, come to me while I was at The Guardian. Not that Glenn didn't do a great job. He deserves that Pulitzer. He's done great journalism since then. But I think what Glenn maybe doesn't get, because he had the benefit of, he broke that major story, so then he became a big name, is most outlets in today's journalism, particularly those on YouTube, not working for a corporate outlet, that just by working for that corporate outlet, if you break major news, it could go somewhere and get notoriety. Most, when I say most, I mean the very few that are doing it, investigative journalists in the digital era of YouTube, Twitter, Substack, whatever, you're dealing with major digital suppression. Not only are you dealing with your content being buried in algorithms, you're also dealing with Google deranking your content or ranking higher corporate content. So honestly, for certain things, Jesus could write it or Jesus could bless it. But if it's stuck in an algorithm, it's not going to be seen. I also just don't agree with the concept that the only kind of journalism that matters is that goes viral or wins awards or gets people out of jail. I mean, Glenn has done amazing work. I don't agree with some of the things he's been saying lately, particularly this comparing COVID to car accidents, and more people technically die of car accidents. So let's, just open up the schools as COVID is surging and whatever. I just think that's ridiculous. Like, car accidents are not contagious. Like, they're basically confined to the people involved. If it's one car, two cars, three cars. And also show me a time where hospitals have been overrun all over America with car accident victims. And also with COVID, we don't know ultimately how many people are going to die. And also with COVID, unfortunately, it's not just death, I would say to Glenn. The long-term impacts are unknown. The long-term impacts are unknown. But I don't think the only journalism that matters is that gets awards or goes viral. I got news for you. Some of the proudest moments I've had in life is when Native Americans came up to me at Standing Rock and then protests elsewhere and said, without you being there, they would have started shooting real bullets. I've had many people come up to me saying that, just about me being there and our cameras being there at Standing Rock. To me, that's just as valuable as winning an award or something going viral. I would like it to win awards. I would like it to go viral, but that to me is not the only measurement. I've had Flint residents literally tell me, if not for you, for Jen, we would just give up. We would just give up. The fact that you are journalistically fighting for us gives us hope. To me, that's journalism making an impact. So, of course you want your story to get front page news. It's not that easy. And frankly, we've done a bunch of stories, including recently, that are front page news. It's just the media is intentionally burying it, talking about our Flint story. All right, let me read a couple more before we wind down. There's the GoFundMe on the page. There's the PayPal. Keep on donating if you can. We very much appreciate your support. Let me read the most recent ones. Christopher, $6, and Travis, $25. I'll put the link for the GoFundMe one more time in there. Stephen, Jordan, everyone has the ability to email any entity in the world. Tell your subscribers to use their power. Please make a list of who to go after, such as the medical industry. Hey, Bill, check out all the Flint videos we've done recently. I left all the politicians' numbers and emails in there. I left the media outlets burying the story in there. They're all up on our channel. Numbers, emails. Buy, rant, or ruin. The only way the entire left stands a chance is if we find a common goal and step into it with everyone who will support no matter our other issues. I agree. And this notion that's developed on the left that we all have to agree on everything is just stupid. I mean, it's stupid. That's not how any movement has ever succeeded. Dave, he shifted more towards a libertarian philosophy. Glenn, yeah. Respect his journalism. Some of the things he's been tweeting recently are just something else. As some others that I respect, and them citing random articles from Sweden or elsewhere from like random doctors to push that vaccinations are no good and that people shouldn't get vaccinated. I mean, yeah, I think some people are really I think some people are kind of conflating their general distrust for the government, which there's good reason to distrust the government or corporate America, and just that totally informs their entire worldview. So that even with like science data-based things, they just say no, because it's like this kind of new world order mentality. So yeah. All right. I think we got most people. Again, I want to thank you so much. All the donations that came in. I think at the moment we're at $8,300 we've raised this week. I would love, if there is a God, to hit 9,000 by the end of today. I mean, hell, maybe there's a miracle and we hit 10,000. But again, this money is not going so we could play blackjack. It is going so we could help break even on all the costs we've had recently. And I've told you about those costs, and hopefully get a little extra to help us fund other reporting that we want to do coming up. So please, if you have anything, even $5, there's the GoFundMe link. You could also support us through PayPal, CashApp, all those good things. If you can't financially support us, no problem. If you could share the link, that would be helpful. The GoFundMe link. We really, really appreciate all of you. It's not a small thing to raise that much money in a week. So thank you for all of your contributions. Thank you. I thought today was a lot of great discussion. I appreciate Sharif coming on, and we'll be back at it next week. So have a good weekend. I'll be live over the weekend if something big breaks, and peace out.